Vaheguru, 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 Vaheguru.
Satnam Sri Vaheguru Sahib Jiyo. Kat kat mein har ju basai, santan kehio pukaar. kahu naanak teh bhaj manaa, bhau nidh utareh paar. kahu naanak teh bhaj manaa, bhau nidh utareh paar. ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. So Sangat Ji will be continuing with the 12th Salok by Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji Padshah in Salok Mehalla Nauma Bani. So in the last video we went through Kat Kat mein har ju basai santan kehio pukaar, and then the next part to this Pangati we're going to make a humble attempt to go through, and in this next part Padshah Ji say kahu naanak teh bhaj manaa, bhau nidh utareh paar. And then we've gone through from the previous sloks what bhaj manaa is referring to, the mind, on my mind. Bhaj means to meditate. To meditate, but not just, and we've already covered this, but just to remind the Sangat that it's when we reach that avastha, reach that state, when it's not just mechanically now having to make that effort and reciting, it's when you can start to feel some of that ras, feel the juice from actually when you're calling out and when you're connecting to Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji. Just as Satguru Ji Sache Padshah Ji talked to us that there's many of those that are unfortunate, but Padshah is saying they say God's name but jin har har, but still har ras naam na paya, but they still don't feel that ras, they still don't feel that inner devotion and love and connection for Akal Purkh Vaheguru Ji. But how fortunate are those where it starts to then become, when their mind starts to vibrate, the bhaj manaa. And then Bhaj is saying, what will happen when you connect, when you start going to your core? And remember, when we go to our core, we'll start to hear the inner voice. We'll start to hear Akal Purkh Ji. We'll start to hear Vaheguru Ji speaking to us from inside of our own self. Just like Bhagat Ji say to us that Sabhai Ghatt Ram bole, Rama bole, Ram bina ko bole re. They're saying, who else is it other than that one that speaks to us from our own inside? So they're saying that when we start to connect and hear Vaheguru Ji's voice from inside, what will happen? Bhau nidh utareh paar. Bhau means fearful, terrifying. Nidh means ocean. Paar means to get across. They said we'll get across this terrifying ocean. So when we look at this concept now of bhau nidh, of referring to an ocean being terrifying, and how to get across this terrifying ocean. And that's why Sangat Ji, we decided to dedicate a complete video for this one Pangati, the second part of this 12th Salok. What is this? What is it that's so terrifying? What is it that's so frightening? And what is this ocean? The ocean often we see come up in the translation as terrifying world ocean. And when we look at the word world, sometimes it doesn't connect us enough to our actual life. So what I'm going to do here is use the word life. That this life can sometimes be very terrifying, can be very frightful, but why? And why is Bhaji saying that it's frightful? Because what is it about this life that is actually frightening? And Sangat Ji, and that's what we know as moh. And that's what we know as attachment. Again, this is something that we'll look into deeper in the next Salok when Padshah Ji is going to be covering this. So the bhau, the terrifying, this nidh, the ocean being our life. And why it becomes terrifying is because, like when somebody goes out for a swim, and then there could be a current within the water that sucks somebody in, and they completely disappear and they start to drown. and they're trying so much to try and get out of that current. And then people will go in and try and help them and save them. But they have no power over it because it's so powerful. And in that way, in this life, attachment is a powerful current that is sucking us in. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji described this to us in their beautiful Bani. Paatshah Ji say to us that tit sarvarade pehle navasa pani pavak tinhe kiya pank jo moh pag nahi chale hum dekha te doobi ale. And this beautifully describes what this terrifying life of this attachment sucking us in is all about. Saying that tit sarvarade, and sar means a pool. And again, this pool is referring to this life. Saying this pool, which is what? Tit sarvarade. And sarvarade actually is a pool that is so muddy and is full of chikkad. So this pool that is muddy, and imagine jumping into that pool that is full of muck and full of mud. Tit sarvarade pehle navasa. But imagine actually living in a pool that is completely filthy. That has just got complete weed all over it. It's got scum all over it. It's full of mud. Imagine actually making that into your home. Tit sarvarade pehle navasa. And then what is that actual? So you've got the mud in that water, but what is the actual water made up of? Tit sarvarade pehle navasa pani pavak. They said that water is made up of what? Of pavak. Pavak means fire. And what is that fire? That fire is the trishna. Imagine now how difficult would that be, Sangat Ji. Can you imagine that Guru Nanak Dev Ji? Sometimes I often wonder that imagination Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah Ji has to help us understand this life better. Imagine now being in a pool, it's on fire, so it's burning us, and it's so muddy that we can't move from it, we can't get anywhere. Tit sarvarade pehle navasa pani pavak. But what is that pavak? What is that fire? That fire is the trishna, are those desires that are burning us. Remember, there's two levels of desire. Paatshah Ji talk about how there's aas. Aas meaning, often we see the word aas translated to hope. But hope, it doesn't always translate to hope. So there's aas which translates to desire, a want. So there's that want where that aas is there. But then, Sangat Ji, then there's trishna. So often we think that trishna is just translated to aas. Is translated as the same thing and is translated to desire. No. So initially, when we look at it step by step, first there is desire, but then that desire becomes an obsession. That desire becomes an addiction and takes over the mind. And what it does is it starts to burn us. It doesn't allow us to live. We can't get out of it. We can't see anything else. And I'm sure we can think of many examples in our own lives where something where a want has taken over our life and we can't see anything but that. And that is trishna. Pani pavaka tinhe kiya. But look at this Guru Paatshah Ji saying, who's actually created that fire? Who's actually created those abilities, the ability to have those desires to burn us? Tinhe kiya, that created us. Remember what we said? It's his game. That this is all a game of his. Kende pani pavak tinhe kiya. And then say pank. I'm going to separate this a little bit. Pank jo moho. So it's jo moho. And then what we're saying is that pank is chikkad. Chikkad means mud. So they're saying now what's happened? Pank jo moho. And what is that mud, Sangat Ji? It's attachment. That mud in that is attachment. Pank jo moho pag. What happens with that attachment? Pag nahi chale. Pag wa pag pagafi. Nahi chale. It means I can't walk anymore. My feet aren't walking anymore. What I'm actually here to do in this life, I'm not able to do anymore. Because of this attachment, my other vikar, my other chor are waking up as well. The other thieves inside are getting ready to loot me as well. Imagine living in that life where you feel stuck because you're so attached to your own children, to your family, whether it be people around you, attached to a car, attached to a status, attached to power, attached to your own body, attached to your youth. So when we think of these things, these are actually things. What does it mean to be attached to something when there's that fear of losing that something? And when we might have something, but we've got fear of losing it, so we're not even getting to enjoy it because we're thinking, how about if I lose that? But all of these things, Sangji, are going to be covered in the next slok that come up. That sukh dukh jeh par se nahi lob moh abhiman. So in that, all these things will be covered in detail. Pank jo moh pag nahi chale ham dekha te doob yale. Guru Nanak Paatshah kende I've seen ham dekha te doob. I've seen so many people drown in this mud, being burnt in this fire of water, being drowning in this mud of attachment. So now we're getting more of a clear idea. Many of times, Sangat Ji, that same thing that somebody is celebrating, the more attachment somebody has to something, the more that very thing will bring them intense pain. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੰਦਰ ਪਿਆਰ ਹੋਵੇ, that thing that we have love for inside of us, that thing has the most ability to give us pain. I remember this love is the worldly perspective, often what is taken of love to be. And it's actually attachment. And Paatshah Ji remind us, ਕਿਸੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਬੱਚਾ ਜੰਮਦਾ ਆ, there's a child that takes birth in somebody's house. ਜਾਤ ਇਸ ਭਾਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਜੰਮਿਆ. This is only when it's God's will, somebody can actually take birth. What happens when that child comes? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਾਤ ਇਸ ਭਾਣਾ ਤਾਂ ਜੰਮਿਆ. What happens? ਪਰਿਵਾਰ ਭਲਾ ਪਾਇਆ. They're saying this is amazing. Look at this. We've been blessed with this child. And often we hear people saying, they're saying, ਪਤਾ ਕੀ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਧੀ ਆ, ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਪੁੱਤ ਆ, my child, my son, my daughter, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਮੈਂ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਉਂਦਾ ਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਇਆ. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ I'm alive because of them. ਕਹਿੰਦੇ they are my breath. And ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਮੇਰੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਆ. And often you'll hear a parent saying that my happiness is within them. But if we make them into our take, if we make them into our support of life, ਪਰ ਜੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਣਾ ਦੇ ਪਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਛੱਡ ਕੇ, and we actually forget that one that is the husband, the true husband of our breath, what will happen? Often out of attachment, from attachment we'll have possessiveness of wanting to control that person, and it's not actually love. How do we know? Because how do we know it's attachment? Because it's what they want out of them. They want them to be a certain way so they can then be happy. Their happy is based on in what they want out of them, not for what they actually want out of their own life, even if it be good for them. There's many children today, we see more youth wanting to take the path of truth than we actually see the parents. And what it is, the parents don't want them to take that path of truth because it's not what they want for them. And they say, this is our happiness. But is it really? And they say, Sada ta inan vich hi a prem, that our love is completely in them. But no, it's actually attachment. They're drowning themselves. That's why it's so terrifying, this life. We don't realize how we're being sucked in. We don't realize how we're stuck and we're not able to actually walk. The Guru gives us freedom. Band paya mere Satguru pure hoi sarv kalyan. The Guru gives us true freedom. And when we're actually living in this world and somebody is living what for? Some people, their whole aim of life is what? Is to pay their mortgage off. Everything they're doing, all they're trying to do is they're earning as much as they can. Mortgage ta lath jave, je mortgage lath gi to main free. And they think I'm free, but they don't actually realize, because they're so stuck in that cycle, they're forgetting to live. They're so stuck in that cycle. We've been blessed with this beautiful life, but they don't realize that bhau, nidh, utareh, paar, that this Why is it terrifying? Because pank jo moho pag nahi challe, they're not actually walking anyway. The only walking that's being done is they're accumulating this wealth, paying off a mortgage. I'm not saying not to pay off a mortgage and work hard, but what we're saying here is we're forgetting to actually live. We're forgetting that there's something, this wealth is sucking us in and not letting us actually walk and experience. What isn't it letting us experience? It's not letting us experience Ghatt mein harju Basai. It's not letting us experience what is our core, what is in our heart. But that's the only thing that was going to actually give us sukh. We think then once that's paid off, that we're going to be happy then. Once that's paid off, we're going to be thinking, Hon ki kariye? Maybe we should buy another house now. And then we start thinking about, chal hon, bachyan li bhi kuch bana liye. Let's make something for them as well. That race never stops. It's like quicksand. It's just pulling us in. Sangat ji, this question was put to Guru Nanak Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Ji. They said, the Siddhs, a yogi by the name of Charpat said to Guru Nanak Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Ji, he said, Duniya sagar dutar kehie kyo kar paiye paro. He asked this question. He says that this world, Duniya, this world that we live in, Duniya sagar, this world ocean, exactly what we're talking about. Duniya sagar dutar kehie. Duttar means difficult. It's said that it's very difficult to live within the world and then get across it, meaning that shouldn't we be renunciates if we actually want to meet God and actually experience true peace? How can you actually do it? How can you actually have a child and not be attached to that child? How can you actually have all this wealth and not be attached to it? How can you really not have fear of all of these things and not wanting to lose it? This is Duniya Sagar Duttar Kehie Kyo Kar Paiye Paro. How is it possible to act? It's what they were trying to say is it's impossible to live in it and get across, because that more is going to drag you in for. Because remember, the more we accumulate, the bigger our attachment gets. Kyo Kar Paiye Paro. And then he says to Guru Nanak Dev Ji, Kende Charpat Bole Audu Nanak Deho Sacha Bicharo. Charpat is his name, is Charpat Bole. This is from Siddh Gosht, a conversation between Guru Nanak, a question put forward to them. 72 questions in this Bani. Charpat Bole Audu Nanak. Audu means, O Guru Nanak, the one that is detached from the world but living in the world. And they can't get their head around it. Their mind is boggled. They say, how have you managed this? It's impossible. Charpat Bole Audu Nanak Deho Sacha Bicharo says, take your time, Guru Nanak Dev Ji. We really want to know the answer to this, because we've left everything. We thought it's impossible, but we've seen you now and obviously it's possible. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Sache Paatshah Ji gives them a reply. They said, Jaise jal mein kamal niralam murgai na sane. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah said, this is your answer. This is how you've got to do it. Yes, it might be terrifying. Yes, it might be difficult. Yes, attachment is strong. Yes, Vaheguru Ji has created this fire of Trishna, of this wants inside of you. But there's a way, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Paatshah said, you just, all you've got to do is become like that lotus. Become like that kamal da full. Jaise jal mein kamal niralam murgai na. There's two examples here Guru Nanak Dev Ji has given. Just like that lotus remains and is living in that water. But remember, around that water is mud as well. Around that water is all that scum, is all that filth. And that water itself has the ability to drown that flower as well, to drown the lotus as well. But jidda pani charda janda, but as that water is rising, it doesn't mean that the kamal, the lotus flower stays at the same level. It doesn't mean now the water has risen, that it's drowning the flower now. As the water is rising, the lotus flower is rising as well. Jaise jal mein kamal niralam murgai ne sane. Paatshah Ji tell us, re man aisi harsyo preet kar. Jaise jal kamleh. Have love for Vaheguru Ji in this way, just like jaise jal kamleh, just like the kamle, like the lotus flower has for the water. Lehri naal pachadiye pee bigse isnehe. Lehri, those waves come in that water. Lehri naal pachadiye, it knocks that lotus flower. Lehri naal pachadiye, hits that lotus flower. Lehri naal pachadiye peeb se snehe, but in the love that lotus flower still keeps rising higher and higher. But that water is where that lotus flower is born. That same water could be the death of that lotus flower if the lotus flower let the water take it over. When that wave comes and gives it a smash, if that lotus flower was to give into that mud, but no, that lotus flower never gives into that mud. That lotus flower remains above all of that. The example's there, and we say, look, it doesn't matter how much difficult times you go through, but you remain like that lotus flower and keep rising. That's not enough. Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha says, here's their example. This is you want to be exactly like that. And they say, now let me explain in more detail to you how to actually do it. They say, Murgai, this is in that same water you'll see a duck. Say, Murgai na sane. Na is the nadi, na is the river. In the river, there's a duck. Murgai na sane. Inside of there's a duck that is actually is swimming, is flowing. But remember, Guru Nanak Dev Ji Pacha Ji saying, that duck does not drown. The water goes onto the feathers of that duck, but that duck does not drown into those waters. That water is the life source of that duck as well, because it drinks from that water. But remember, that water can become the death of that duck if that very water that it uses to survive from, if that water was to seep through into the feathers of that duck would drown in that same water. That is the sustenance of that duck. It will actually be the death of that duck. But no, Sangat Ji, it doesn't allow that water to seep through its feathers. Why? Because the Qudrat di aisi khedya, because of the way nature is, the actual feathers of that duck is coated. Just like Guru Ramdas Ji Pacha says, Mere Thakur ke jan, alip teh mukte jumr gai pankh na pije. This is just like a duck, their feathers do not allow the water to seep through. Why? Because they're coated. And because they're coated, the water just falls off. If the water seeped through, the duck will drown. When that duck needs water, it puts its beak in. But if that duck allowed its beak, its mouth to remain within that water for too long, that same water is keeping the duck alive. It will be the death of that duck, because it will drown, it will suffocate. A Gursikh must become like that duck. The feathers are the mind of a Gursikh. And the Gursikh, what the Gursikh does is it coats its mind with what? With the Guru Shabad. Guru Sahib Ji say that Surt Shabad Bhav Sagar Tariye Nanak Naam Vakhane. Pach is saying that Surti, my focus and attention. If it remains scattered in the world, constant and worried, what's going to happen for my kid? How am I going to pay that? And if it's constantly like that, where is my surti? It's about where my attention is. Paj saying Surt Shabad. It says it needs to be in the Shabad. It needs to be in the Guru's teaching. If I coat my mind with the Guru's teaching, Surt Shabad, Bhav Sagar Tariye, then this world ocean, this life that can be so terrifying because of the attachment, can this Surt Shabad, Bhav Sagar Tariye, our surti, our mind, we're going to coat it with the Guru's teachings. Constantly leaving our mind coated, constantly thinking about what my Guru's teachings are. Surt Shabad, and constantly remaining in the Guru's Gur Mantar that He's given us. Constantly from inside, Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. That Pach is saying that Surt Shabad, Bhav Sagar Tariyed will get across. It will coat our mind just like those feathers. That world that we live in, you don't need to run away from it. That food that we need to survive, we won't drown in that food. That food won't drown us, meaning we won't get addicted to those particular foods. We won't live our whole life thinking about, when am I going to get my pizza next? When am I going to get to have a glass of Coke again? It's not going to take over us. When it's taken over us, that means we're not coated the mind. It's seeped through. That means it's still not coated. Surt Shabad Bhava Sagar Tariya Paach is saying, coat it with this Guru's teaching and you'll get across. These things won't become attachment for you, these very things that you need to survive. When you go in, you know exactly how much to dip in. You know exactly how much you won't let work take over your life, where you're working 13, 14 hours a day and that's all you think about. How can I make a bit more just so I can get a bit more, just so I can get that little extra gadget in my car, that little extra gadget for my laptop so I can have that extra that'll give me suck. No, it won't consume you. You'll know exactly how much to dip in. You know if I stay there too long, you know if I get carried away with this life, that very things that I need to sustain me is going to kill me. Guru Sahib Ji, that's why they've given us what? Amrit Vela. Sach no vadiyai vichar, kende par you'll have to give up something that is so precious and sweet to you, and that is sleep. Just that little bit sacrifice of sleep, that gives us the opportunity to come out of that and then truly sustain our mind and soul. Surat Shabad Bhav Sagar Tariye Nanak Naam Vakhane. Guru Nanak Dev Ji say, constantly vakha, constantly say Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vaheguru. Kat kat mein har ju base. Then we'll reach our kat. When we live that way, we'll reach our core. Kat kat mein har ju base. Santan kehio pukaar. Then Maharaj Ji will put us in that place where we're able to say ourselves, not hear from others, but he truly resides in our heart. And we'll be able to tell the world that as well. And then Sache Paatshah Ji is saying to us that kahu naanak bhaj manaa, bhau, nidh, utareh, paar. Meditate on God's name and we'll get across this life that seems to be so terrifying. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.
If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Please donate and help spread Guruji's message. Link is in the description below. Vaheguru Ji ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji ki Fateh.